And here we go. Hello to Wagner Ware and everyone else. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to my kitchen here on this Friday evening, October 11th, 2024, where, as you can see, we have a very obvious box sitting here because that's what we're here for tonight. We are here to take a look at the new Wagner Cast Iron. They call it a utility grill, although it is also known from vintage days as the Wagner Long Griddle. There is a lot of history behind this and a lot of controversy too. And that's why before this live started, I mentioned something to the people in the chat because it's entirely possible that that there may be some negative opinions of Wagner voiced here tonight. So I want to say something right now. Number one. It is okay to state negative opinions and negative criticism. This is not going to be any kind of an "oh, I love Wagner" type of session. I'm not being paid for this. I'm not an employee of Wagner Cast Iron. I'm not being influenced by them in any way. They sent me this. Yes, they did actually send me this for free. They said they wanted to send it to me as a review. For review. And so that is certainly what I'm doing, but I'm not going to let my opinion be influenced in any way. And that's why, as I said, I'm opening this up to positive and negative comments about Wagner. However, rule number two, no shouting sessions, please. Please do not let this devolve into shouting sessions and insults and name calling over it because, well, remember the words of the great wise man who said, there are three things that I have learned never to discuss with people: religion, politics, and the great pumpkin. And this is not any of those three. So there's no need for people to become sworn enemies for life over Wagner Cast Iron. It's okay to disagree. And there are indeed some negative things that I think do need to be aired tonight. But there are also positive things that need to be aired tonight. And that's why I'm more than happy to show everybody the Wagner Ware Cast Iron Griddle. Yeah, nice wooden box too that came in. I have to say the packaging for this was much nicer than what we get from Lodge Cast Iron because, as the folks know, as great a company as Lodge is, their shipping is very basic. They put it in a cardboard box and ship it to you and hope it doesn't break. This one was well packaged. It was a box within a box within a wooden box, and all three of them were insulated. So this thing definitely arrived spotless. Anyway, so yeah, here is the wooden cover to it, and here is the actual box. And hello to everybody who has been kind enough to show up here tonight. Bacon Lady, my mom had an original one of these from the late 1950s. Nice. I hope you still have it. Cynthia Wesley, well, best behavior. Oh, not to worry. I mean, we know you here every week. So, and Rocket Caver and Corey Clark. My opinion, it's not Wagner. Well, we can discuss that. And Val's Black Cats Rule. Got your prayers here, Rick. And watching from Southern California, Rich Qualls. And hello to Mercy B and everybody else. I actually earlier this afternoon, I did in fact get on the phone and I called the number that was left that is available on Wagner Cast Iron's website. I called and left them a message saying that we are doing this live video here tonight. If someone from Wagner is kind enough to show up, that would be very nice. I'm not insisting or demanding that they show up tonight because they can always watch the replay just like everyone else. But yes, here we are. As I mentioned, this is a very nice looking cast iron griddle. This came, as you saw, with the box, and there are a couple of things I think that we can even discuss even before that, and that are these little promo items that were included with it. One is this little card here that has a very brief history. The Wagner Manufacturing Company was a historic producer of cast iron and aluminum cookware in Sydney, Ohio, founded in 1891. Wagner established itself as a market leader, renowned for unmatched quality, innovative designs, and diverse product offerings. This version of the Long Griddle, number 1148, was available in 1950 near the end of the Wagner family ownership of the company. It is the first of a new collection of reissued products developed with guidance from the Wagner family, input from private collectors, and analysis of documents from library archives. These vintage designs have been studied in exhaustive detail in order to recapture the look, feel, and quality of the originals. This griddle is a functional tribute to the history of American cast iron. And stuff in the back, directions for use. This has all the stuff that anybody who uses cast iron knows very well. Pre-season, ready for use. Seasoning will continue to develop with use. Always preheat on low heat. This will promote during initial use, avoid acidic ingredients. We know that. Food like pancakes, grilled cheese, and French toast are recommended. The grill is safe to use on any heat source. Yeah, that's the thing, of course. That means, yes, you can use this on a glass top stove. Yes, you can use this on an electric stove. That's one of the things they've been arguing about forever and probably will continue to do so. Simply wipe away food debris with a cloth, soft sponge, or dish brush. Dry thoroughly to avoid rust, and after cleaning, add a thin coating of oil for additional seasoning. Yeah, okay. This is all very familiar to us, fortunately, so I won't go into too much detail about that. It also came with this little inspection card here saying this was inspected by, I think, AD or AO. However, it's interesting to note here. The Wagner Cast Iron cookware, this Wagner Cast Iron cookware was handcrafted in the United States. Irregularities such as small pits and uneven coloring may be present due to the historically accurate manufacturing process. In other words, that really is obviously an excuse in that if there are casting flaws like pits or tiny little splinters or the like, as they say, they say they're trying to be historically accurate. And well, that in itself can be a subject of contention, I guess, because that's one thing I think that I know folks do want to discuss, and that is, of course, the company who made this. I mean, who is Wagner Cast Iron? Because, it's really hard to find any information on them. Apparently, the rumor was that Stargazer allegedly bought out the Wagner brand, and so perhaps this may actually come from Stargazer Cast Iron. However, the shipping address for this was actually in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and that is listed on their website under their contact address. So that could just be an office in Philadelphia. So quite frankly, we don't know where the actual foundry is, although this states it was handcrafted in the United States. So yeah, I wouldn't mind some additional information about that. And frankly, I would appreciate it if they're honest about it, because whether or not this actually comes from China, I would just like to know. I myself do not have a problem with using Asian cast iron. I've said so many times. And on the other hand, it might even be possible that this may have come, say, from Lancaster cast iron, which is, of course, in Lancaster County, or maybe they did start up their own foundry. I honestly don't know. What about the possibility, and here I admit I am completely guessing, what if the Wagner Cast Iron Company is actually a tax write-off, that some other major manufacturer set this up especially for business purposes? Maybe. If that's the case, then you might consider that the company might not even need to make a profit. So who knows? I'm not going to start arguing over business practices like that, because, quite frankly, this is the 21st century. This is not the original days of the heyday of American cast iron manufacturing, when Wagner and Griswold and all the others pulled out, produced thousands and thousands of these pans, if not millions, and they sold them at dirt cheap prices. Well, even in those days, these were considered luxury items. Wagner and Griswold were the type of things you went to Macy's and bought, whereas you went to places like Woolworths and Sears and the like to buy less expensive brands. And boy, is there a lot of history and discussion about that too. Okay, all right. Hello, handsome stone. I have an eerie griddle that I scored for $5. Well, congratulations on that. That's for sure. Yes, I'm aware, but if we had a specific price, we could adjust for current value. Okay. Back then, cast iron was cheap. Most was under $1, some just a few dollars. Yeah, that's the thing. Back in those days, kitchen cookware was not really considered a luxury item, except for some exceptions, like Wagner, for one. They were just considered solid, usable, and eventually disposable items. So yeah. And yes, it's true, Rocket Caver. The price of this griddle is, in fact, $240 plus shipping. Yeah, that is an expensive piece of cast iron. I'm not going to shy away from that. It's pretty much the same as all of these other new elite cast iron companies that have shown up in the past decade or so, and they've all started producing cast iron for the luxury cookware market. And they people have been arguing about the high prices of these fancy cast iron pieces since they first started about a decade or so ago. I mean, that argument is going on and on and on, and it's not certainly not going to be resolved tonight. I mean, it is true that there are quite a few companies that are selling that are selling cast irons for huge prices, and the question always comes up: why should I pay $240 for this Wagner cast iron griddle when, as somebody said here, you can get a brand new one from Lodge Cast Iron for half the price, under $100. Or if you're in the vintage market, who knows? You could get one for, like somebody said, I got an Erie griddle, not me, but he got an Erie griddle for $5. So yeah, that's a real question. And they haven't really been able to do many real good answers. Although I think the closest answer they have really is that there is a market for luxury cookware, not just cast iron, but cookware. It's been around for decades. It's probably been around since the heyday of American manufacturing. It's certainly a not fringe, a niche market, but it's always been there. Yeah, and I mean, Le Creuset, for instance, has existed for decades, and everybody knows how incredibly expensive Le Creuset cast iron is. And of course, the response to that is yes, but Le Creuset is wonderful quality cast iron, whereas this is wonderful quality cast iron. Yes. On the other hand, Lodge cast iron is also wonderful quality cast iron. So it's something that we're going to keep arguing over. I mean, as I said, I'm not going to come out and take a side over this one. I've defended these high price companies before. Bacon Lady, I've collected 6 pieces of Wagner Ware skillets and haven't paid $240 for all of them. I did recently pay $40 for a square lid that fits two square cookware pieces. Well, that sounds good. And I'd have to guess you paid that price because you felt it was worth it and because you had a need for it, which is perfectly fine. There is any number of reasons why someone might want to pay an incredible price like $240 for something like this. Any number of reasons. For all we know, like a business might might be stocking up a really fancy executive kitchen or something like that. And so they're willing to pay through the nose for it. There might be the collector's market, or I don't know. I'm not really in the high price collector's market. I've managed to score a few valuable pieces of cast iron, but really, for the most part, I have not gone out of my way to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for cast iron, with a few exceptions. So yeah. All right, yeah, and most prices tell that truth sometimes. Speaking of a vintage market, as they're putting any sort of Richard Rubes. Speaking of a vintage market, are they putting any sort of identifying mark on so collectors can identify the originals versus the new production? Yes, they are. In fact, let's take this and let's turn it over and see what we have. Where, as you can see, let me get this to you. It has the original Wagner Ware, Sydney O for Ohio mark on it. And what's more, it's even in a thin font. Starting in the 1960s or so, they put this logo with a thicker font. One thing at the bottom, though, that differs from the original is that they mark this as a utility grill. They don't mark it as a long griddle. Interestingly, it does have the same catalog number or model number as the original one. Not that they're actually using the same model numbers. However, there is one thing that is different. They do put a manufacturing date on that. Let me bring this down again so you can see here. On the bottom of one handle, here it says, does it say 50? Yeah, it does say 50, and it says 23. I'm actually okay. 23. Actually, that doesn't seem like a manufacturing date because now that I think of it, because it says here that it was inspected in 2024. Again, the inspection date is April 9 of 2024. So yeah, at first glance, I thought this might be a manufacturing date, but I might be wrong. There obviously it's some kind of a classification number. However, this will absolutely identify this as a modern day cast iron pan. So there is absolutely no chance that this can be mistaken for a vintage Wagner. Not unless someone were to go on eBay and simply not show photos of the identifying mark. On the other hand, the fact that it's showing as a utility grill also indicates just that this is definitely not a vintage cast iron pan. All right, I have some Jim Glathar. I have some vintage Wagner pieces, most specialty pans. Most specialty pans, bread pans, wafer iron, double waffle iron, and some pie logo skillets. Well, that all sounds nice. And yeah, and Cynthia, I agree with you. This is a very attractive, very nice looking pan. I mean, there's certainly no problem with that. That's for sure. Yeah, nice looking griddle. May 1st, 2023. Maybe. Was it maybe manufactured in 2023, put into a storage, and then finally inspected in April of 2024? Seems a little odd, actually, but maybe. And besides, it says 50. It doesn't say '05. So I still don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing an answer to that, maybe from the folks at Wagner. Just got a message from Fuzzy Fork and said his comments won't come through. Really? That's odd. I don't have an answer for that. Is Fuzz Fork here? Did he join this live? I certainly wouldn't have had any reason to block him as far as I know. Not that I can think of. All right. Anyway, Jim F is in the house. Overruns? Maybe, but I mean, considering that this is the only product that we know of that this new company has produced, and it's obviously meant for a luxury market, how many of these do you really think they made? A few hundred, maybe? A few thousand? I don't have an answer for that. All of this is something that I wouldn't mind getting answers from the folks at Wagner Cast Iron. Maybe they might consider answering it at some point. Still, nonetheless, I mean, as I said, again, we're not out to bash the company. We are just curious, and I'm saying honestly curious about things like the origins of the company and so forth, because it's worth mentioning the history of Wagner Cast Iron after they went out of business. As folks know, the actual Wagner foundry, they finally went out of business in, I think it was 1999 or early 2000. If I remember right, I believe the actual employees of the company for the last few years, they got together and formed their own company to try to run it, and that ended up not working out. And so at the very last, there have been a very few Wagner pans with the Wagner logo that were made in China. I have to guess that they must have made that for less than 1 year because those pans are not very easy to find. I've seen a few of them myself. But so somewhere around 2000, the last of the original Wagner pans made in China were released, and that was it. What are we going to cook on it tonight? Well, as a matter of fact, in a little bit, Rocket Caver. Yeah, we are in fact going to do some cooking. Don't worry. I should probably do it. In fact, after I'm done with this little sermon that I'm giving here, I should start heating this pan up. Um, but one thing to mention though is that folks in the cast iron community may know, even though this is not a bright spot in cast iron history, namely that after Wagner went out of business, the trademarks for Wagner and Griswold were bought out by a certain holding company. I'm not even sure if I should mention their names because folks in the cast iron community know that company, and they did not really make a good reputation for themselves. Let's just say they really caused a lot of trouble in the cast iron community. They did not make a lot of friends, that's for sure. They ran the Wagner website for several years and allegedly sold Wagner cast iron and products on that website. But there were reports that nobody who bought anything off of that website ever received anything. There were even a few claims from them that Wagner was going to start producing cast iron again, and all of those claims came to nothing. Heck, I myself was in its early days, I was a fanatic for Wikipedia when it first came out, and I contributed to some of the articles there on cast iron and the history of cast iron manufacturers. Several times, Wikipedia was edited to say that Wagner cast iron continues to be produced by the American Corporation in Ohio. Yeah. And I had to correct that and say, no, they're not actually being produced, especially since only within the past, I think it was only like last year or so, the Wagner foundry was finally torn down. It was abandoned back in 2000, and it frankly fell into ruin. Nothing at all happened. It was never cleaned up. And so finally, the city of Sydney, Ohio, I guess they seized the property through eminent domain, or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe someone bought it. But the Wagner foundry is no more. It was completely torn down. I believe it was last year in 2023. And then suddenly, out of the blue, this new company here has acquired the rights to the Wagner name, and they are now producing Wagner cast iron. So, despite the negative things that I've said in the last few minutes and some things that we've said, I'd consider that a good thing. A company is actually producing Wagner cast iron because I've seen comments in the cast iron community that some people wanted to try starting up the Griswold name again. It's like they said, why can't some other company start producing Griswold? And that didn't ever seem to happen. But here we are. We've got a company that is producing Wagner cast iron. And yes, I know. Yeah, Corey Clark, fake hamburgers. Shit. Okay. Yeah. Says one bacon lady. My husband asked what I'm watching. Want one of those for Christmas from Santa? I told him it would sure beat a lump of coal. Oh yeah. How many companies are going to make fake Wagner ware? Who knows? I Yeah, I know what you're saying when you're calling it fake because it's not the original vintage. Um, I will disagree, quite frankly, with the calling it fake, because it did state really that yes, I mean they are definitely. There's no question they are trying to capitalize on the name of Wagner Ware. Absolutely. On the other hand, they've done what really looks like a nice smashing good job of it. I would give them credit for that, if for no other reason. This is a nice looking piece of cast iron, and frankly, I really don't see any problem with owning and using something like this. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to keep this, but I'll probably make that decision not necessarily today, but at some point. So whoever is making this reproduction is trying to do it well. Yes, exactly. This is not a cheap knockoff. I can definitely say that. That's for sure. If they were trying to fake it, they wouldn't put it in a high-end box. Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's the whole point there. I mean, yes, this is definitely not the original vintage, but they put a lot of effort into that, and I will gladly give them credit for that. Someone really did this as a labor of love. This is not just trying to cash in on the brand or something, because if it was, heck, they could have ordered it from China for all we know and just simply shipped it out in cardboard boxes. Like John Wayne Cast Iron, for instance, as just as an example there. $240 is more credit than I'm willing to give them. That's also true, William Hurt. I mean, I have to agree. I wouldn't pay $240 for any cast iron pan. I can't think of yeah, I just said. Um, okay, I can think of a couple of instances, yes, where I paid a fair amount of money for a cast iron pan, but that was something really, really, really exceptional. At least I thought so. Whereas this kind of a thing, this is really was meant to be a common everyday item. Okay, but it's a beautiful piece of cast iron, but it better be for the price. Yeah, no question about that. That's for sure. All right. However, like you said, how about we actually do some cooking with this? I mean, we could certainly can still keep talking about it. There's no reason not to, but let me move this to the side. And I had this rested on here just so that it isn't stained by my stove. Anyway, oh, by the way, the bottom of this thing is completely blank for the record. So let me put this over here. Get these out of the way. And time to christen a new cast iron griddle. Because even though they call it a utility grill, but people know this as the Wagner long griddle. All right, so now as for what we're going to make on this, it wasn't really that hard. You consider, as I said, this actual company is based in Philadelphia. So how about we make some Philly cheesesteak? I'm sure nobody would say no to something like that, would you? Yeah, especially since now I can get this out of the fridge here. Got some shaved steak, got some onions, and in the fridge, I've got provolone cheese. So there we are now. All right. Okay. All right. So far, so good. I personally find the large Blacklock griddle more attractive and more than half the cost. Okay. Well, yeah, you may have a point as well, Virginia Iron, VA Iron, I guess. But nonetheless, as I said, it is not my place to make an absolute decision of whether or not, yes, this is worth it, or no, it's not. This is not that kind of an unboxing video. You know what? Let's turn on the heat. And it's on. This is now, here we go. We are now breaking in our Wagner Cast Iron Griddle. But yeah, those unboxing videos, and I've done a few of those videos myself. You know the one where you get a piece of cast iron, either you bought it or maybe it was donated to you by a company, and you look it out and say, hey, this looks really nice, and you start cooking on it, and it's cast iron. Of course it's going to cook great. I mean, there's no question about that. At which point at the end, oh yeah, I've made something nice and tasty here. So yeah, what is this a really good cast iron pan? You betcha. I give it a thumbs up. And yes, I've done that too. I've done unboxing videos for the Finex cast iron skillet that I received for Christmas back in 2014. Stargazer actually sent me a 10-inch skillet, which I still enjoy using. Louis J donated a field skillet to me, which I've also enjoyed using. So yeah, I mean, yes, I do actually have some of the modern day cast iron pans, but I wanted to make this a little different from your usual unboxing video where they just almost say nothing but nice things about this. However, I'm still getting really, really positive about this. In no way at all am I telling people to avoid this or not buy this. I mean, Yeah, that $240 price tag is really something to consider. There's no denying that. But if the opportunity comes up and for whatever reason you were able to acquire one of these, I mean, I would have to say even before I've cooked on it, there really shouldn't be any reason not to not to get this. This is a like you said, this is a nice piece of cast iron here. The best irons are the ones you'll use all the time. Yes, exactly, Val. You can fix a whole breakfast for your guests on that. Tell me about it. So yeah, I mean, heck, I mean, I've said myself as well that I feel that every kitchen should have at least one really big cast iron pan because you're going to find yourself getting a whole lot more use out of it than you might think. As for this one, I've got a different quandary. I already have a large, heavy cast iron griddle that fits over two burners of my pan here. That one I inherited from my parents, in fact. So yeah, there's sentimental value for that. That particular one is a Weber griddle. So yeah, made in China. But nonetheless, as I said, I got it from my parents. So who's to say? It's not like I'm going to be giving that one up at any time soon. Anyway, I've only had my heat on for a couple of minutes. And at this point, we are just past 270 degrees. So we're getting somewhere. I like to I like to start using these things probably when the temperature gets like maybe 450 to 500. And I'd say at this rate, we only have a couple more minutes to go. All right, at least keep it because it'll become a collector's item when they go out of business. Yeah, okay. Well, that is your comment, Jim F. Yes, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, who could say, like, for instance, Finex was bought out by Lodge. Butter Pat was bought out by the Yeti Company, which has been making incredibly overpriced products of every kind. And there are still other cast iron companies out there, new manufacturers that are making high priced cast iron, like Field, Lancaster, Grizzly, Smithy. All of those make cast iron skillets that are in the same range as this griddle. We're talking like about $200 or so. So who knows? Over on the cast iron cooking group on Facebook, somebody said that their neighbor was throwing 3 cast iron skillets into the trash, and so she took them and salvaged them. All 3 of them were Smithy skillets. Yeah, I know. I mean, you know how much Smithy is selling their things for? And she got 3 of them for free. She had to clean up a little bit of surface rust, but that was about it. So who knows? It will be like the Wagwall, worth not much. It's interesting in that these days on eBay, of course, the speculators are selling Wagwalls at high prices too, simply because, of course, it has the Griswold name on it, and they call it a rare post 1957 Griswold. So, um, I've come across a few Wagwalds. I do not own one myself. I have a few unmarked Wagners, and I have a few marked Wagners even before this one. Okay, Bacon Lady. Yeah, hello from Jimmy O. Hello, Richmond County, Ohio. Nice to see you, Jimmy Ruger. Welcome to this little welcome to this little channel tonight. Cynthia was a what score? Yes, it certainly was. You're talking about those 3 Smithy skillets. I have no doubt about that. Bacon Lady. I have a round Wagner fat-free griddle that I love cooking on. It's from the late 1920s. It lives on my stove, but right next to it now is my new 9-inch Lodge wok. Well, there you go. You're certainly going to get a lot of use from both of those. Oh, yeah. In fact, speaking of which, I have an original straight logo, or what do you call it? A block logo Wagner griddle as well. So, in fact, I might as well just quickly go over and get it. Just give me a second. Here's one of my Wagner pieces, in fact. And here's what this one says. Okay, I'm going to have to do it upside down, I'm afraid. Can't seem to fit on the camera. But yeah, Wagner Sydney. And this one is the one with the quotation marks. So it is from one of the earlier generations of Wagner. And this is definitely something I'm proud to own as well. It's a great breakfast skillet as well. Great for making pancakes or tortillas. So yeah, I do have a few other Wagners in my collection. All right. I have a number 4 Wagwald. Oh, that reminds me. I mean, despite this, I realized I forgot to cut up the bread. Here's a hoagie roll. Okay, it looks like this one is not pre-cut. I'm gonna have to slice this. Okay, that will come. Right now, 4:17, 4:30. Okay, maybe another 30 seconds or so. Whoops, looks like I got a crumb on there. In another few seconds or so, we're ready to start. All right. Well, thank you very much, Bacon Lady. That's for sure. I would be curious as to how the weight of the new Wagner grill is to the vintage. Well, I should have weighed this before I put it on the hot burner. I can't pick it up now, unfortunately. Also, I don't have the original long burner to weigh, a long griddle to weigh, I'm afraid. So I unfortunately can't make that comparison, but maybe somebody else can. After this thing cools off, I will weigh it and I will post the weight. And maybe somebody who owns an original Wagner griddle can compare that. All right, that means we need to start out with the onions. That's how we do it when we make Philly cheesesteak. And did I put my? Yeah, I did. I shouldn't have put this bowl away. Here we are. Okay, at last. Jimmy Ruger, have been dealing cast iron cookware since 1990. My best skillet is a 7 Sydney Hollowware. Nice. The website says it weighs 9 pounds. I would certainly believe it. This is definitely a thick and heavy piece of cast iron. So I can still weigh it nonetheless after it cools off, and we will compare and see how it turns out. Right now, though, time indeed for some olive oil. Doesn't need to be too much. And we start with onions. Actually, I should probably do it this way. Just got to char ourselves up some onions, and then comes the meat. We have the meats. Also, I don't want this. Oh, gotta be careful here. Don't want to drop these things. All right. Anyway, the shame. Start with bacon. As a matter of fact, I don't have bacon tonight. And besides, a true Philly cheesesteak is pretty much just beef, onions, and cheese, along with salt and pepper, on a hoagie roll. With garlic, of course, garlic butter. Besides, if you want a controversial opinion, I think bacon is overrated. Yeah, so there you go. Now people are going to start shutting down this live. I said something bad about bacon. Oh, no. Anyway, let's just get these all nice and soft and chewy. Also, I got to be careful I don't burn them, because I seem to be getting them all over the place. I got to watch myself here. All right, and peppers. Another sign manufacturing is trying to honor the original. Looks like it came with good seasoning. That is true, yes. I'm not denying that either. We've seen some cast iron pans, even very fancy cast iron pans, where the seasoning just seems to burn off right away. I had that problem with my Finex and with my Stargazer. in that it took a long time to get those things properly seasoned. So far, this is looking pretty good. Notice it's got a grease trap all around the side. And I think we're already almost at the point where we can put this bit of onions aside. Oh, by the way, I took down the chaos detector. Okay, I couldn't let someone clean or season my, couldn't dare let someone clean or season my iron. Defeats the whole purpose of the big reveal. Have you had chocolate dipped bacon? You know, I have. It's not bad at all. All right, I think we are at just about the right point here. So let's get these things up as best as we can. I'm getting this all over the place. Which means after this comes the most important part, the meat. All right. Make sure this grill is still hot enough. We're still at 460 and this one's 500, so we're doing pretty good. In fact, I'll turn the heat up very slightly. A little bit more oil. And where did I put it? Here it is. Let's have some meat. All right, because yeah, when it comes down to it, this is a big, thick, heavy piece of cast iron. Which is why I knew from the moment I opened it that there was not going to be any problem at all cooking on this. I need another bowl for that meat. Corey Clark, back years ago, a guy said he would restore my cast iron skillet. I knew it was a Griddle, but when I got back with an unmarked Wagner. Ouch, yes. So be careful having people restore your cast iron. That is certainly true. Yeah, you gotta be, unfortunately, yeah, you have to be careful. Not just with cast iron either, but yes, I'm sorry to hear that happened. The meat, for the record, here is chuck eye. I found some chuck eye at Price Chopper at a decent price, and so I put it in the freezer for a little less than an hour and sliced it myself, which is why it looks pretty thick and chunky for shaved steak. But it'll work. We have the meat. I think I'll take a picture of this. Not a bad way to show christening this very interesting piece of cast iron. My dog here's your spatula and he wants to sit in my lap and watch. Not enough beef. Well, not to worry. I have more beef. Right now, oh great. I just got it all over the place again. My bad. 5-second rule. And you can argue anyway that putting it back on the heat will sterilize it. Probably about done at this point. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Alright, see if this well here. And a little bit more. That sure didn't take long either. Did it again. Yeah, I am not a professional cook, folks. Folks who have been to my channel probably already know that. If this is your first time visiting my channel, yes, I am not a professional cook or chef. Definitely not a chef either. I am a cook, just not a world-class one. Still, I've enjoyed using my cast iron. All right. So we've gotten some nice stains on this already, that's for sure. Okay, next thing I need to do is very quickly split myself up a hoagie roll as best as I can. Okay, get out my knife. And a little bit of butter. This butter is too hard, unfortunately. All right, maybe I'll kind of cheat. Hope I don't burn the butter. There we go. Okay, so far so good. Back in the 80s, this was back in the 80s when I started collecting cast iron. Wow, you were way ahead of the curve, Corey Clark. You have my respect. Bacon Lady, I always get ideas for meals watching. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully I can get some beef. Yeah, as I said, I managed to score, and give it another few seconds. I managed to score some small pieces of chuck eye, boneless chuck eye. They were like about $8 a pound, and so I ended up getting a little more than a pound. So this really isn't very expensive. Yeah, I mean, if I were to buy shaved steak, it would be more expensive than that. But as I said, all I did was I took those pieces, I put them in the freezer for a little less than an hour to make them nice and solid. Oh, damn it. It's definitely hot. To make them nice and solid. And from there, oh, what's wrong with me? Oh man, I am not thinking. It's still in the freeze. It's still in the fridge too. Guess what I forgot? I forgot the cheese. Duh. Sheesh. Oh, my bad, my bad. How can you have a Philly cheesesteak without cheese? Ugh. All right, well then, we will have to manage. Bring this open here. Feeding the stove, yes, exactly. Oh, come on, now on top of everything else, I can't even open this. Arrgh. Stupid package. Okay, fine, the hell with it. Just do it that way. All right. Well, that means I'll have to throw this meat on very quickly. I don't want to overcook the meat, but you gotta have cheese. In fact, I think I can turn this down a little bit. Fortunately, I happen to get thinly sliced provolone. I understand there's a big deal that some people say you're supposed to have cheese whiz on Philly cheesesteaks. Not today, folks. Sorry. I will be quite happy with my provolone. All right. Worth it to live in the country, Dubs. No cheese was at our house, provolone or white cheddar. Oh, yeah. Only the stores that have a supermarket in Walmart or travel to shop. Yeah, Wally has Philly steak kits. Yeah, okay. I'm sure I've heard enough already. But we're already at that point, it looks like. So, there's some of these onions on. And as carefully as possible. All right, haha! Nice and messy. It is messy too, no question about that. But we definitely have ourselves a Philly cheesesteak. That's one. Might as well make another one. And that should be sufficient. Anyway, well, it looks like it's working. Yeah, you could definitely say this griddle is doing what it's supposed to do. So no, I will disagree with calling it a fake griddle. Whether or not you call it a fake Wagner Ware griddle, this is a cast iron griddle. No question about that. Oh, yeah. Just have one of these pieces of meat. Nice. And hello as well, and hello to Hogwild as well. Well, now that we've done that, as I said, let's make another one, shall we? Oh, and by the way, we can keep on talking as well about Wagner Cast Iron because, you know, I mean, I'm sure you folks here, some folks do have very nice Wagner in your kitchen. Boy, this is no longer a clean griddle, is it anymore? I'm sure some folks have made some good scores on Wagner Cast Iron. And whether or not you want to pay $200 or $240 for this particular piece of cast iron. I mean, again, if the opportunity comes up for you to acquire this kind of a griddle, I would certainly say do it if the opportunity comes up. I mean, there's always that question, of course. It could happen. I mean, I certainly did not expect to become the owner of a vintage 15-gallon cast iron cauldron, which I've talked about many times. Yes, and yet here that's how it turned out. It was an unexpected score. So who knows? Heck, for all we know, you could come across one of these at a thrift store at some point in the next few years. I am not dissing the company by saying that. I mean, as I mentioned, somebody just a few days ago in the cast iron cooking group, they managed to, they found their neighbor throwing out 3 smithy skillets, and they got them for free. Here's the other piece of meat. So you never know what's going to happen. Besides, the market today is way different from the market in the early 20th century, and that is one reason why all of these new companies were making cast iron. They're all going for the luxury market route because really, I mean, consider these companies here, they have to make a profit and make it fast because they've got shareholders that they have to make happy. I mean, that's how it is, you know. I mean, you can do a GoFundMe or some other kind of crowdfunding thing. But in addition, especially if you also offer stock in your company, you have your shareholders to think of. And that is very different. Well, I mean, yes, I know they had stock in the cast iron manufacturing companies even back in those days. But in those days, of course, as I said, those companies, including Wagner, their business model was to push out cheap cast iron by the thousands. And that didn't take long at all either, especially so that they could, so that they could sell them in stores all over the country. Their motto was quantity as much as quality, maybe even more than quality in some instances. And that is different from today. That's also why large cast iron they still have the capability to be able to churn out thousands of cast iron pans and sell them everywhere all over the country. Whereas companies like Smithy or Yeti or Finex or Field, fortunately, the market is different in that they can do things like selling their pans over the internet, for instance. I mean, a couple of them have managed to land deals with distributors like Williams Sonoma, for instance. But it's going to be a long, long time, probably maybe never, before you get to see the likes of, okay, we'll wait a couple of seconds, before you get to see the likes of Smithy or Finex or Field or Wagner at Walmart. It's just not the same. And on the other hand, people are not going to go to Walmart and buy a high-priced cast iron pan, especially because they can buy Lodge or Walmart's own Ozark Trail brand there. The market is simply different. My Night Mercy, didn't see you coming, girl. I'm seasoning a Paula Deen hammered griddle. Holy moly, is it a hefty, girl? Wow, that sounds impressive. Let's see you in action, Huey. I gave mine away to someone that actually uses it, unlike me. Well, yeah, there is that. I've got myself a give it away pile too, and I'm really debating what I'm going to do with this and once I'm done with it here. I mean, yeah, and this is a nice griddle. Like I said, I have a griddle that I inherited from my parents, so maybe I'll give that one away. Maybe I'll give this one away as a Christmas present. I don't know yet. But I will figure it out soon enough. And nonetheless, here we go again. All right. Bacon Lady, I had a shopping spree on the Lodge's site this week. I got some bakeware pieces and a 7.5 quart Dutch oven. Nice. These new companies have to make high quality cast iron because they can't compete with Lodge. That is true. Not in terms of quantity and being able to put out mass qualities of their product. You're absolutely right about that, Radagast, because the market and really society itself is different. And yes, I know there are folks who will just say things are not like how they were in the old days. And yes, there is a lot of truth to that. But the simple fact is, times have changed, like it or not. And so the best we can do is roll along with it and do the best we can, which is what I'm doing. I mean, I've told my story many times already here on my channel, that most of my life I would have told you I could not cook to save my life. I only started cooking in cast iron when I learned to cook in 2010, which was going on 14 years ago. I have not been cooking all my life. On the other hand, I have enjoyed the hell out of this hobby, really enjoy it. And even though I've had this hobby for 14 years, well, I picked up a good skill that I'll be able to use the rest of my life. I can cook now. So all of those are pluses. And now it's a bonus on top of all that to be able to cook in some high quality cast iron, such as this Wagner Griddle. So this is a nice piece of cast iron. There's no way around it. This is a nice piece of cast iron. Some folks are grumbling about the use of the Wagner name. You can do that. Feel free to post your comments about it. That doesn't take away from the fact that this is a nice piece of cast iron. All right, try not to forget the cheese this time. Oh, wow. Me and the boss are getting up at 3:30 a.m. to drive 2.5 hours to set up a flea market. I went to the scales and have over 1,000 pounds of cast in my truck. Ouch. Yep, that's what you call cast ironitis. No question about that. Here's hoping you do good. I hope you have good luck at your flea market. By the way, Hog Wild, I've seen you promoting your stuff on TikTok, and you've got some good stuff there. I like seeing your little short videos there. I'm sorry I haven't commented on every single one, but I've liked what I've seen. This guy again is Hog Wild Cast Iron. First sandwich cost $240. This one will cost half of that. Yeah. The second sandwich is cooking up faster. Yes, it is. You know, that's always the case. Of course, that's because, again, this pan has gotten thoroughly hot all the way through. That probably has something to do with it. And it's not just this pan. It's really like any cooking in cast iron. It's like the first thing you make is pretty much the test. You know, the guinea pig. And then after that, you get into your groove and you start really doing good stuff. Because yeah, look at how fast this is all browning. Thank you, William. I was really confused. It's just like God using the Jeep name. The real Jeep was made by AMC. Yes, indeed. A wonderful gift, but wondering why others may buy it. They have their reasons. That's the best I can say. And I can also say, good luck to them. Because, to be honest, you know, I mean, whether or not, even though we don't know a lot about this company, they've produced what they set out to produce. You know, I mean, this, as I said, is a really nice, high-quality piece of cast iron here. So, regardless of what the company is like, they're producing a quality product. So, if some people decide they want to buy it, and they know what they're doing, they know that they're going to spend all that money on it, or maybe they'll get a discount in some way or another, then more power to them. That's what they want to do. I'm not going to stop them from doing it. All right, now I think we are at about the time. Let me flip it one more time. This time, I'm not going to forget the cheese. I got 4 slices of so-called thinly sliced provolone. And I think I did the right thing by getting the thinly sliced, because this will melt all the faster. Yeti will buy it and sell them for $500. Who knows? You know, Yeti actually dropped the price on those Butter Pat skillets. Last year, Butter Pat produced the first Yeti skillet for $400, and that made the news. A $400 cast iron pan. How dare they sell it at that price? Well, guess what? Now they've dropped the price so that it's $250. Still, $250. Why should you pay $250 for a cast iron pan? Yeah, that's hard to say. And I wonder what the people who paid $400 last year are thinking. So who knows? Right. Field makes a long griddle. Oh, that's interesting. I have not been keeping up with some of these companies here, but yeah, they're really doing their best to expand, and why not? After all, again, they've got to keep up with the market. Wrong one. Here we are. And once again, I forgot again. My bad. I forgot to toast this again. I should have toasted it in advance. All right, that seemed to work well. My bad. I'll just have to live with it. All right. After all my testing, I've decided to stick with Field and Lancaster. Well, good. I'm glad you like it. I have a Field skillet too, and it is very nice. I find myself preferring my Stargazer. Maybe it's just like I like the feel of it. You know, call it a personal preference, let's say. I'm happy for a Friday. Well, thank you very much. And hello, Hippie Longshanks. Yes, well, I hope this has been fun. I hope people have gotten this off their chests too. I mean, it was like really happy Festivus. It's time for the airing of grievances because we certainly did get a fair amount of grievances aired tonight, but that's perfectly fine. Thank you to everybody, by the way, for being civil. As I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having disagreements in this kind of a discussion because it's just cast iron. And I like to think that that helps to make this fun. I think I overdid it on this. I probably have enough here on this to make a 12-inch hoagie. Oh well, let's do it. Come on. I think the first one was better. There we go. Ha! Come on. Got it. And here is Philly cheesesteak number 2. And gosh darn it, there are a few leftover pieces. Whatever am I going to do with these leftover pieces? I just might have to eat them. All right. Yeah, this is definitely going to require a cleaning after this. This is no longer a pristine cast iron pan. However, you know what? It's already seems to have taken on a blackened color. That didn't take long. Whoever said that this is a well-seasoned pan, I'm going to agree with you on this. I mean, this thing is definitely performed better than some other cast iron pans, including Lodge, as far as seasoning goes. So whatever they season this with, congratulations. That I would call a point in their favor. All right, which means now that we've done this, put this away, time to turn off the heat. What is a vintage Wagner Griddle going for these days? Yeah, that's a good question. Would anybody be kind enough to go onto eBay and see what a long griddle cost, a Wagner long griddle goes for? You know, I bet it won't go for $240. You know, I might be wrong. It's the Wagner name after all. It may not be Griswold, but somebody might try to sell it at that price. I would think more likely, wild guess, I would say maybe $150 for a vintage Wagner long griddle. Let me have a mouthful of this. Oh yeah. Nice. when my guests arrive, they're gonna have some Philly cheesesteak. Nice. Mm. Ooh, the griddle, no, but two gate marks. Oh, so there were no Wagner griddles on eBay at this moment, but apparently there are two gate mark griddles. Well, that's interesting. One more mouthful and I'll stop. Mm. One on eBay, utility griddle, $110. Are they calling it a utility griddle or a long griddle? That's a question, if you don't mind. I would like to see that. $98 was the last sold. 98 plus 18 shipping for a 17-inch. Well, this is definitely a 17-inch. So yeah, I would have to say it has the same dimensions as the original long griddle. Still, there we go. All right. It's exactly like that one. Does it even say utility grill underneath? Because then I'm going to be suspicious. Does it show the underside? Does it have that date mark or whatever it is under the under one of the handles? Because it might suggest that it might actually be one of these. That's so now I'm curious about that. All right. But anyway, I'd say we've gotten what we needed to get here because you know what? We made some Philly. I can't talk, can I? We made some Philly cheesesteaks, not chili fees steaks. Philly cheesesteaks. Okay. Yes, indeed. I have the number 7 large long griddle, and I'm sure you get a lot of use out of it too, Cynthia. It has Wagner Ware on the bottom. Oh, it just has Wagner Ware on the bottom, but it doesn't say utility griddle. Then maybe they got the name from here because, as I said, I thought this was a long griddle myself until I saw the name utility grill underneath. 300 Wagner Sydney O 21 by 10. Ooh, that is quite a price. A couple of times I have seen huge stovetop griddles with that fit over all 4 burners of the stovetop. I understand those are made like for restaurants and for the military. Haven't even used it. She's a beauty. Well, really? Well, then I would have to say go ahead and use it. At least that's my opinion. Found one that is vintage labeled utility griddle for 120 plus 20 shipping. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm not too surprised. So yeah, that still gets the question of whether $240 is worth it for this. And I still can't answer it. As I said, no, I wouldn't have paid $240 myself. But I do want to thank again the folks at Wagner Cast Iron, whoever they are, for being kind enough to send this to me. As I said, they sent me an email saying Wagner Cast Iron is back. This is a few months after Louis J got his hand on one of these, and he has a video as well where he cooked pancakes on his. Nice pancakes too. Anyway, they sent me an email, I think maybe about 2 weeks ago, and said that if you want one, just send us your shipping address. So I sent them my shipping address. I also asked them a couple of questions in my email, and I have to be honest, they did not reply. But they did send the griddle, so I will give them credit. As I said, Wagner Cast Iron, a company based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In fact, I think I'll summarize it up this way. Yeah, folks. Okay. Folks, we spent the last hour or so talking about and using this new cast iron griddle, which Wagner Ware calls a utility grill. This is an exact replica of the original vintage Wagner long griddle. This is an excellent piece of cast iron. It is well cast, well made, very attractive. And we made Philly cheesesteak on this tonight, and it performs like a dream, just like any piece of cast iron would. It's nice and smooth. It doesn't have a rough surface. It is meant to look and feel like the original vintage cast iron griddle, and I'd have to say I think it does. So I can only give them really, I can certainly only give positive marks to Wagner Cast Iron for producing what they say is a replica of the original vintage Wagner Cast Iron griddle. And I do believe they have done so right down to the last detail. And this would be an excellent addition to every kitchen. This particular griddle they are selling for $240, which I do have to say is a very high price. And whether you feel it would be worth it in your kitchen would is really your decision. On the other hand, I will also say that if you find the opportunity comes up for you to acquire one of these really, really excellent pieces of cast iron, I would not hesitate to recommend that you do it because this is a very nice and very attractive and very useful piece of cast iron. If you don't have one already, definitely go out and get yourself a griddle at a price that you can afford. And if it turns out to be this one, consider that a bonus. There we go. Okay. And that, I guess, would be my review of the Wagner Ware new modern cast iron utility grill. All right, it's getting dark already. Yeah. My stove came with a beautiful cast iron griddle, so not really something I'm in the market for, but it's cool. Yes, a lot of stoves do come like that, that's for sure. The high-end cast iron market is saturated. That might be. That's worthy of a discussion in itself. Not tonight. We are done here. But yeah, bring up the topic at some point, not just on my channel, but bring it up on the Facebook groups and Reddit's cast iron community and see what they say. $240. There is a market for it. Just not so sure it would work on my glass cooktop. It will work on your glass cooktop. You can use cast iron on your glass cooktop, including two burner griddles like this. Okay, yes, exactly. Hippie, they work on glass tops just fine. Maybe that griddle is number 23 out of 50. You might be right. That actually makes a lot of sense, Mark G. Man. I think you might very well have it. So then made a batch of 50, and this one happens to be number 23. In which case, I'm especially happy because number 23 is the number of chaos. Anybody who follows Eris and Discordianism will recognize the number 23. So yeah, that makes it a little special. So thank you for that. All right, but there we go, folks. Radagast, take a look at page 42 and 43 of the Schiffer Book of Cast Iron. There are many Wagner griddles. I use cast iron on my glass all the time, just wasn't sure how flat it was. Well, this one is flat. You know, a lot of Wagners, quite frankly, are spinners out there, the vintage ones you find. A lot of them have been warped from use over time and overheating. This one is brand new, and it is definitely not warped, and I'm going to do my best not to warp it. All right, there you go. Confirmation to keep it. Well, that's certainly a good possibility, Cynthia Wesley. I have to admit that might actually make a point in its favor. It's coincidence, but I love coincidences. That's one reason why I call this channel Cast Iron Chaos. And having said that, I think we are wrapping it up now. So I can only thank everybody who was kind enough to show up here and take part in this little discussion tonight. I like the fact that there were some negative comments. As I said, I did not want this to be nothing but a cast iron love fest because those are definitely comments that are worth commenting on. And on the other hand, it's this, as I said, there are a lot of really positive things about this Wagner cast iron griddle. I'm glad to own it, and I'm very thankful to Wagner Cast Iron for sending it. So thank you very much. Have a great night, Nine E-Pups Honeypot, and Val's Black Cats Rules, and Hog Wild Cast Iron Restoration, Cynthia Wesley, Hippie Longshanks, Corey Clark, KCB 5150. Maybe they made it in the 50th week of 2023. Who knows? You might be right. We don't know yet. But thank you as well, Val's Black Cats. And thank you for William Hurt. And, well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself because that's really the whole point in this and having fun. So thank you, everybody, for coming by. And we will see you all again, well, if nothing else, next Wednesday on Cast Iron Wednesday. Thank you for joining my channel, Cast Iron Chaos. And above all else, have fun. Have a good evening, folks.